Shalom, my friends, this is Max Joseph, and I'm here because the Academy just dropped some big bombs, and I'm here to discuss it, and what its impact may have on the future, and so you know what that means. It's time for the news. But before I go into the news, please make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel, and ding that little bell to get notified whenever I post new videos. So if you've been following, the Academy made a few huge announcements today. Instead of going through every single detail, I'm going to talk about the key things. First, they announced that going forward, the sound mixing and sound editing awards will be combined into one category: Best Sound. So I've been saying this for a while now, that within the next year or two, they're gonna combine the sound categories into one, and now is as good a time as any, I guess. I think there's a lot of individuals who don't understand the difference between the two, which is very big and different, by the way. So to make it easier on everyone, they're gonna combine them. And I'm very mixed on this because I believe that the difference between editing and mixing is night and day. They have similarities, but they're so different and both very important. And there should be awards for both. But I do think that it can confuse people and voters. In the last decade, the two awards have gone to the same film 6 times. Not an overwhelming majority, but I think it does say something. Now I'm hoping the Academy decides to add a category to replace that one. And I think the one that's next in line is probably casting or maybe stunt. So I won't be too surprised if they add one of those this year or in the very near future. But maybe not. They might like the idea of a shorter ceremony, I'm not sure. But I think it's time to have casting, stunt, voiceover, which is my personal preference, something. And then the streaming announcement. They said, and I quote, "For this awards year only, streamed films to be eligible for Oscars." That is huge. I am very, very torn on this. There are so many advantages and there are so many disadvantages. As of now, the Oscars are happening when they're scheduled. Sunday, February 28th, 2021. Yay, let's all celebrate. They aren't canceling. Does this mean that the date won't change? Not at all. In fact, they said that due to the shifting landscape surrounding the global pandemic caused by COVID-19, all matters of rules and eligibility for the 93rd Academy Awards are subject to change based on national guidelines, state-mandated government orders, and Academy-determined best practices. Additional adjustments to Academy rules, eligibility requirements, and scheduling may be required. End quote. But for now, all is on schedule. We are having the Oscars when it is supposed to happen. Positives. Great. Next, this does give studios permission to release their films when they want to, and they'll be considered. So let's say, for argument's sake, Warner Brothers decides that they want to release Tenet when it's supposed to come out, July 17th. Well, there's a very, very good chance movie theaters will not be open by then. So they are now given 2 options, and this is assuming theaters aren't open by July, of course. First option, which is what I'm hoping for, they say that this film is meant to be seen in a movie theater. Let's postpone till December or whatever month or day, or even July 17th of next year. This deserves a theatrical release. Or number 2, they decide, let's release it when it was supposed to come out, but let's have it go straight to streaming and have our Oscar run this year because we're eligible if we go to streaming. This is great. Again, positives and negatives to this. This leads me into the biggest point of all. If studios decide to move their films to streaming platforms to be able to contend for Oscars, movie theaters are done. They will be a thing of the past. Let's say that Disney, the biggest blockbuster studio, decides to release Black Widow and Eternals straight to Disney+. Instead of giving them theatrical runs, that is bad, bad news. Because I believe movie theaters cannot survive without these big blockbusters. The Jojo Rabbits, Little Women's, Parasites, even Tarantino films, those are simply not enough to sustain a movie theater in today's world. So now that this rule exists, now that the Academy has given studios permission to skip a theatrical run and go straight to streaming, why wouldn't they? It could be argued, it could be, that it's the smart move financially. Trolls World Tour made nearly $100 million in the last 20 days. And Universal is making more money by sending it straight to digital than if it had the same numbers as if it went to theaters. And they are now eligible for the Oscars. So if I use that model and I'm a studio and I have the option to compete for an Oscar and make more money by sending my film straight to streaming, and the only disadvantage is that movie theaters will close, I'm nervous that it'll be about the money and the convenience. This is why I was hoping that the Oscars would postpone, because I am so nervous that studios will instead start to fall in line and they'll go straight to digital, and that will just continue until movie theaters have no possible way of reopening. Now, there is the possibility that studios will keep pushing their films back to give audiences the full experience of seeing a film the way it was intended, which will give the Academy even more to think about. And there's also the possibility that studios go straight to streaming for now. And then, when the world is in a hot mess, they go back to theaters. But at that point, will theaters even be a thing? I don't know. There were a handful of other changes made, like this will be the last year that DVD screeners will be distributed. For original score, a score must be comprised of a minimum of 60% original music, and if you're a sequel or franchise film, it has to have 80%. There's a few other ones, but the two bombs that dropped today were that streamed films are eligible, and the two sound categories are now one. And if you ask me, I don't think that this will be the only change the Academy makes this season. I also expect for some big players to make announcements in the coming weeks regarding whether or not they're changing their release dates or if they're gonna go straight to digital. So much is about to happen. But whatever happens, I just hope that going to the cinema is still a thing when this is all over. And so, my friends, thank you so much for watching. Please make sure to like this video, give me your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to this channel, as well as follow me on Twitter and Instagram at mjoseph492, like my page on Facebook, which is facebook.com/MaxJosephFilmPerson. And if you really love me, please consider being a patron on Patreon, where you can get patron-only content, guest interviews, giveaways, and lots more. You can even give me a film to review, a 10th of the month top 10 category, a ranking, a song to sing, and that video will be dedicated to you. Shalom, my friends.